us, they need us, they need us. We are the children.
Hello, my name is Sewedo Nupowaku. Welcome to FilmTalk from FilmTalk Nigeria. Here we share filmmaking experiences and in a wider sense, deep insight into media, arts, and entertainment. FilmTalk is resourceful, in terms of experienced filmmakers sharing ideas with new filmmakers. So you can check us out at www.filmlab.ng. Today I'll be talking to Mr. Sewedo Nupowaku, whom I suspect studied law in the University of Lagos, Akoka, in order to enhance his capacity to argue out any media contract, problems. But I want to, first of all, ask Mr. Sewedo, what is the meaning of Sewedo Nupowaku? That doesn't sound like Yoruba, if you like it.
Good day to you, Efifyong. It's a pleasure being on this program.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes. So first of all, it is Sewedo Nupowaku, and I'm from Lagos. So usually when I tell folks I'm from Lagos, it throws them off because I've heard all sorts of theories about where I come from. Some have said I'm an Egbesu from, I think, Bayelsa. Some even said I'm from Congo, and stuff. I'm from Badagry.
I bet the first time I heard this now was like, where is this guy from?
Yeah, so I'm from Lagos State. I'm from Badagry.
Okay.
And my ancestors came to these parts over 500 years ago. So I believe I'm a bona fide Nigerian as well. However, they came from Benin Republic. So you will find my sort of name a little bit more in the Benin Republic parts.
Okay.
So I count people like Jimo Hunsu, the American Hollywood actor,
okay,
and Angelique Kidjo as well, sort of kins people from across, the border and stuff like that. Sewedo is actually the short form for the name Osewedomo, which means yes, which means it means the Lord has ordained it so.
You're blessed. You're blessed, really. Anyway, let's go on.
Yes.
Sewedo. Yeah, I'm right now.
Sewedo, yes.
In 2020, you're still running Revolution Media Limited, which is a media and entertainment company.
Yes.
You produce comic books. One of those titles is Nollywood's Trinity. You also do
Nollywood's Finest and Trinity.
Okay. You also do animation.
Yes.
You also inspired stage play Moremi, the revised standard version.
Yes.
You're also currently working on some movie projects,
Yes.
And some TV plays. And what is the conceptual principle behind your Revolution Media, if I may ask?
Well, so I think that what you are saying is that essentially what's our raison d'etre, that is our reason for being, and what we can count as our USP, that sort of thing.
Unique selling point.
Yes, yes. What drives us and what is our unique selling point? I believe that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Okay. So we like to believe that we are always trying to think outside the box, and that we are courageous enough to back this our ideology with research, with consistency. A lot of the things we've tried to do have navigated around the idea that, okay, look, this is what everybody is doing. How can we do it differently? So, for example, the Moremi revised standard version, the stage play, was an attempt to see if we could bring younger folks who were generally not into theater and older folks who were used to theater. So somehow we found a way to please both sides. So just be, within the Moremi story itself is a lot of things. There's a kung fu, there are kung fu fights, there's a rap battle, amongst other things. So we like to believe that we think outside the box. Then we try to be versatile and the sort of material we create, the products we launch and the services we offer. Again, through a data-driven process, if you will. So, as you see, we are into stage plays, we do comic books, we want to get very strongly into film, amongst other things. We have people who come with different skill sets and all that, but that is, of course, born from my own experience. I've always believed in, trying out a lot of things and exploring a lot of possibilities. And then, of course, ultimately, we like to think globally while acting locally. So essentially, many things we do, we have the local audience in mind, but we believe that they should be well tuned for an international audience to be able to get into that sort of thing. So those three things, uh, a sense of the maverick, versatility, and the idea that we think globally and act locally are some of the driving principles behind Revolution Media.
I will call that globalization. I don't know if you heard that
Yes,
term before.
I have globalization.
Globalization.
Yes,
Globalizing localization.
yes, absolutely. Very
Okay.
witty.
Now, I
Yes,
did not, I wouldn't want to go on beating about the bush, but since you've also already explained your versatility in terms of staging Morimi, a stage play,
yes, yes,
creating comic books, doing
yes,
animation, and
yes,
producing
yes,
live action movies and television
yes,
shows, I
yes,
would
yes.
certainly want to play out Morimi. So let's play out Morimi and see what actually happened before we go into the next question.
No mistakes. We were moving on them when they least expect. As you all know, the Coco, my heart's there beat for you now. I see it now. If I says
I want to quote you that Moremi is an intersection between modern female ambitions, ancient rights of a Yoruba woman, and the present interpretation of feminism. How can realistic feminism be so derived to help Nigerians understand the differences between traditional feminism and modern feminism? And how can that, melt down into one feminism, help producers like you, filmmakers like you, script writers, whoever is involved in media arts and entertainment, to evolve the kind of content we need to re-educate Nigerians and have a balance of their understanding of feminism?
That's a lot of
Questions. Loaded.
yes. That's very loaded. So the first thing I'm going to say is that ultimately art and entertainment is usually a reflection of society.
Okay.
However, in a case of the chicken and the egg, I would like to say that sometimes art is meant to be the soul and conscience of society. It's meant to hold society up to itself and say, look at what you are doing. This is right, this isn't right, this needs to go, this needs to be amped up. So for example, I tell my filmmaker friends that look, filmmakers are like priests of the society. in the sense that they like listen quietly to the thoughts of the generality of the people, just like you go to confess in a confession booth, and then use those to preach to the populace regarding feminism itself. Our society is quite patriarchal. But the irony is that I find in my own personal research that the people who consume a lot of our media, whether it's TV or who go to the movies, are often women. So there tends to be some sort of disconnect. However, that said, I'm not going to pretend that I am an expert in feminism, but I think that ultimately it is about the idea that we should treat all people equally, regardless of gender. And we need to recognize how far back women generally have had it a bit tough in our society to essentially and optimally express themselves. Um, so we have some of our traditions, for example, that seem to try to encroach on their women's rights to express themselves, do exactly what they want to do without being told, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then we find that whether it's regarding marriage, whether it's regarding politics and stuff like that, a lot of the belief systems and mindsets we have tend to look at women as either trophies or venison, so to speak. When I say venison, I mean, in quotes, and I use this I use this respectfully, as meat. The way you showcase meat and then you eat it and you consume it, forgetting that women are human beings.
Sewedo, if
Yes.
I may come in there, let me
Yes, please.
remind you, let me take you back in time.
Go on.
Remember Fela Anikula Kuti's mother?
Yes, please.
Good. Remember how she caused the dethronement of the Oba of somewhere, an Oba somewhere,
Yes.
during the colonial
Abeokuta.
times. Now, that
Yes.
was a very powerful woman who,
Yes.
irate, used to lecture why people like her son Fela, Shoninka, and
Yes.
the other son who died recently. In fact, most of
Yes.
them used to sit
Yeah.
at her footstool while she lectured them on the rights
Yes.
of women.
Yes.
It was the same
Yes.
right as they pursued that overthrew the Oba. So
Yes,
when you say
but-
that society, our society, African
Yes.
society has not given women enough room
Yes.
to exercise power as human
Yes.
beings, I begin to
Yes.
wonder.
No, but that is for every Fumilayo Ransom Kuti. How many men are you going to talk about? Fumilayo was an outlier, and then again, that's in the Yoruba tradition or the Yoruba milieu. To be fair, in the Yoruba milieu, so you see, just as the Yoruba traditional system wasn't exactly republican, but it was also not exactly feudal.
Okay.
There were rights and powers given to everyone. In fact, for example, in the Alaafin's court or in many of the courts, you will find an Iyalode who is there as an aggregator of the aspirations of the women. And again, you find that there are quite a number of prominent Yoruba women. So Fumilayo wasn't exactly, at least in the Yoruba milieu, doing something so different. So because you've had the Madame Tinubus, you've had the Efunsheto Aniwuras, you've had even Moremi herself, you understand? So that particular society was one that still found a way to get women doing their thing and expressing themselves. In fact,
So what went wrong in the modern Nigeria? What went wrong in modern Nigeria? That
but for example, modern Nigeria is beyond the Yoruba milieu. We have our Igbo brethren, we have our Efik brethren, we have folks from the north, and I'm not sure whether what exists or existed in Yoruba land was like generally what existed everywhere.
Okay.
However, I think that, like you pointed out, tradition and to some extent, the religions, the popular religions, that's Christianity and Islam, once those religions came to our shores, they brought in them intrinsic patriarchal systems that somehow try to, well, and I say this respectfully, diminish the role of women. So, for example, you find that an Apostle Paul says in the Bible that women should not be heard and that they should relax and wait till they get home to ask certain questions. And we know that even in Islam, there is a way in which ladies aren't exactly upfront. So when you bring those two, and those are two powerful aggregators of culture themselves, and you bring those things here, there is no way you are not going to have the women affected oftentimes negatively regarding this. So look, there is work in progress regarding emancipating women and actually optimizing their rights, but then that doesn't mean that they have not been outliers. And that is one of the reasons why a lot of our properties, our IPs, is to show that, look, as the Yorubas themselves say, man kills snake, woman kills snake. The most important thing is that the snake is killed. And so in our economics, in our politics, we really need women to be encouraged to come in. And we really need to also get rid of certain mindsets that somehow sees women as different or are disadvantaged. There's absolutely, when I have my daughter, I'm not going to tell her that she should see herself, for example, as a second-class citizen. I'm going to tell her, please, go ahead and be whoever you want to be and express yourself. You have my permission and my backing and my support to do so. So really, we need to, it's the mindsets I want to believe,
Okay.
Yes, the mindsets we need to, and that's where the filmmakers and the writers come in. They need to be able to show, sometimes even scientifically, that there is absolutely no difference. Women are part of the society. They are bona fide movers and shakers. They are bona fide influencers as much as any other man,
So really, we need more of the Moremi kind of productions to, drive this mentality back to base,
Yes.
so that in the long run, women would know their places. So let me say again that this is...
Women don't have their places. Women are like everybody. The places belong to the women as much as with the men. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, you're listening to Film Talk or you're watching Film Talk. I'm talking to Mrs. Sewedo Nupowaku, who is a filmmaker with
Amongst
a difference. He believes that thinking out of the box is a thing. And he has just thought of the box by saying we should go back to the roots and place women. I'm sorry to use the word place, because if I use the word place, you will disagree with me. And allow women to, assume the natural role, yeah. So to the next question, you inspired the revised standard version of Moremi, which was staged at during the World Theatre Day.
Yes.
And so how do the character acts of cowardly or incompetent Oba Efizi, cowardly Council of Chiefs, bereft of ideas, selfish market woman leader, Yalode, philandering prince who only becomes a man when the compound is empty, when we men go to war, and the Moremi herself, the epitome of women liberation, the epitome of women revolution. I believe informed your revolution media. So how do these character acts reflect our collective fate as Nigerians? And how would they ever allow us as filmmakers, as media people, to drive the essence of Moremi, which is to empower women even in modern Nigeria?
Well, so you see, the Moremi myth or legend or story or narrative, there's the basic form of it, which is the idea that after a while, if people were being attacked by marauders, And Moremi being a charismatic, well, in some versions say she was an Iyalode, some say she was a wife of the king. That she got, very, very worried and concerned about these attacks and decided to, find out what was wrong, how to find the weaknesses of these marauders so that they can be defeated, or so that she can get the secrets and come to Ife, and then they could, deal with all the marauding,
Sorry
and
to
all
cut
that.
in. Can you, by the way, give us a little bit of narration of this situation that you're trying to analyze?
Again, there are slightly different
Patience.
yes, versions of the story. But so I mean, some 20 years ago, thereabouts, I was reading the history of the Yorubas by Samuel Johnson, because I wanted to really find out what the story was. But apparently, even his story is one of the versions. But it is essentially that Ife was attacked by certain marauding groups who would attack them almost guerrilla style. Oftentimes, they came, they would just swoop down on Ife, carry their food, and carry their women. And Moremi, being a woman leader, a charismatic woman leader, was very, very concerned. Of course, generally, because it was a very superstitious society, they thought these marauders were forest demons. So, of course, you would expect that, everybody would say, oh, the gods are angry, let's find out what's happening. But Moremi knew that there was something amiss about these folks. I mean, if you were a forest demon, why would you want to eat? Why would you want to sleep with women?
Really?
Yes. So she decided to do a bit of espionage work, and like all espionage agents know, it's very, very deadly. And she knew that this was a very deadly mission. So before she went on that mission, she actually went to a stream goddess called Esimiri and asked that the goddess make her mission successful. And that if the mission is successful, she will sacrifice anything the goddess asks for. Some versions say she will sacrifice the first thing that comes to welcome her after the mission. So she allows herself to be captured. The next time the marauders came, she got very, very charming, because she was very, very pretty and all that. And we know that even forest demons can't resist good-looking
Beautiful
types.
women.
Beautiful women. Yeah, so she finally got him to spill the secrets, and which is that their weakness was fire, and that if the raffia, the masks, which they used in scaring the Ife people, if those things were touched, it would leave them very vulnerable and they will be defeated. So she, having found that out, she, escaped back to Ife, told them that, and when next the marauders came, they were ready with fire, and of course they were touched, and then they were free.
Courageous woman. Courageous woman.
That's absolutely true. Courageous, patriotic, and that is what we are saying. No man there thought about using espionage. The ladies, and this is one of the things I've always said about governance and politics. There are ways in which men are brought up to see warfare, for example, or to deal with conflicts. I think the world has not yet been optimizing the way women see conflict and how women deal with conflicts. And I think that's really one of the reasons why we've had to think about it. The world is reeling from COVID-19. No single shot has been fired, and yet it's like the entire world is under siege. So you see what I'm saying? There are many ways in which warfare and strategy regarding warfare can be tackled.
Yeah.
And so Moremi, of course, the first person that came to meet her was her only child, a son. And it's, so beyond the patriotism, you see that she still had to sacrifice her child. And in all of that, you get to see also the sort of sacrifice women make in our society. First of all, right now they're expected to also be breadwinners in certain situations and yet juggle all of that breadwinning or at least contributing to the family purse. They'll juggle it with taking care of the home and taking care of the children. So you see, Moremi proved to be a very, very effective agent. Let's call that her career. And yet she had to lose her child. And so there are versions that said or that say that Obatala came down from the sky and whisked the child away and he didn't see death. But the Ife people, recognizing her powerful contributions, decided to actually honor her and say, look, you may have lost your child, but we are all going to be your child. We are all going to be your children from now on. So, well, yeah. And so Moremi is celebrated almost every year in a ceremony in Ife.
And I was going to ask you, how has he impacted on the Yoruba cosmology in modern times?
Well, regarding cosmologies, because our African religions have not necessarily been given the sort of razzmatazz that perhaps the other religions have. I am not very sure about what the Moremi mythos has done. Okay. However, you understand in the Yoruba mythologies, a lot of the gods used to be human. For example, Alaafin Shango, was an Alaafin, but then he was, in quote, upgraded to being a god. There was also, of course, Ogun as well. So I would think that if we had an Olympus, a Yoruba pantheon, Moremi, and even to some extent, this thing, sometimes it's like evangelism. Some people, just like Jesus, the disciples will come and say, look, this man who used to live has become a god, and so that's happened with Shango. Some people have made cases for Awolowo. Lagbaja once said, Abami, that's fella, Abami ti do risha o yepa, so I would think that if Moremi should be one of the
pantheons.
Well, pantheon, even though she might not be part of the 401 Irumole, which originally Olodumare was said to have created.
Well, my thinking is that if you can elevate Beyonce to a level where she is now, yes, if you can elevate Jay-Z to the level where she is now, you can as well do a modern Moremi to that extent that maybe a singer can become a Moremi, a movie can be made to epitomize a Moremi in the lights that we're talking about, so that we now understand why we must embrace our culture, come back home. Because, my brother, if you look at it, we are all falling apart because of the lack of vision and mission inside from our culture, But how do you explain the cultural conflicts, in bringing modern technology to a stage play that reflected tradition? You talk about 12th century water pots and plastic tubes for water dispensers. You talk about Balawo consulting the Oracle with an aid of a laptop, Google and a poor internet connection, a coming class of generations, the influence of modern inventions and technology in ancient life. How do you explain the cultural conflicts?
Well, there were really cultural conflicts. We wanted to have a stage play that could attract younger folks. So, growing up when I was in my 20s, I loved the theater. But I also loved movies. I had just watched The Matrix. We were geeking over sci-fi books. And then, of course, I read Dio Fagunwa and Tutuola. And I've also read Tolkien, Lord of the Rings. And I felt these people don't necessarily have more imagination than ours. So I had just seen a movie, a stage play about Shango's wives. So I spoke to my partner Ayo Aribabu, who eventually put together the script or the stage play that is Moremi Revised version. I said, look at what we've just seen. Imagine if we added the bullet time from the Matrix in this, and have some very cool stuff, Funny, because years later, I think in 2010 or thereabouts, when they brought Fela on Broadway to Lagos, I actually saw those sort of merging of technologies and cultural elements, in the way they interpreted it. There was a particular scene that had neon lit egungun, and it was so grand, and the sound effects were brilliant. And I just said, whoa, this was the kind of stuff I was thinking of when we're talking about, Babalaos using laptops and stuff like that. The good thing is that we are working on a comic book movie hopefully we can make into a movie or a movie franchise where we try to merge nanotechnology and the gods, and in recreating new gods, so to speak. However, the truth also is that there are certain people in the society who actually, for them, this is no fun stuff. They really worship some of these characters. So they can be fairly conservative about some of these things. So by and large, I think we filmmakers and we creative people can honor the past and still find a way to, bring some of these things and make them culturally relevant in the present. And that's what we try to do with those things you term cultural conflicts. That, essentially, we told the story, with the fundamentals. And then we now added all the rap battles and all the Fuji music and all of that afterwards.
Impressive, impressive. My point is, or what I want to say is, since you really, really like thinking out of the box, make
Yes.
a Wakanda story out of the Moremi story very soon, please.
Well, to be fair, the Wakanda story has been with us since the 60s,
Yeah.
but it was only when it made financial sense to the studios to do that sort of thing. So, of course, finances play a very powerful part in this thing.
I understand.
Yes.
So,
But the idea is idea.
well, yeah. So let's go on by playing out your "I Love Lagos." That's Sewedo talking about Lagos.
My name is Sewedo Nupowaku, Badagry, Lagos State. Yeah. I stay in the Yaba area. I'm a communications consultant. I'm also involved, I run my own outfit, that does, a bit of publishing. I love the hustle and bustle. I love certain places in Lagos. I love the Lagos Island bit, and I'm talking about the Obalende, Marina, Ikoyi bit, the entrepreneurial Alaja who is selling cloth and provision. I like the vibrance of Lagos. I like the youth of Lagos, the energy, the creativity. There is really, and the fact that Lagos continues to be a metaphor for hope, ambition, a better tomorrow,
Well, that was "I Love Lagos" as expressed by Sewedo Nupowaku. But I want to ask, Lagos for me, many years back, was like sugar attracting ants.
Yeah.
I came to Lagos. I saw Lagos. Probably I couldn't conquer Lagos. But if Mr. Nupowaku says he loves Lagos, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how this has helped him as a Lagosian. Maybe because we are sort of non-indigenous in Lagos, but they say all Lagosians are Lagosians. I mean, from 2016 to 2019, you were facilitator of the deployment of the End Crate Government Initiative, which you helped conceived. You were a communication consultant for Farm Limited. In 2015, you were creative director in Cerebral Media. In 2013, you were director of strategy PR consultancy. How has Lagos made you who you are today?
Well, the truth is that, first of all, I'm Lagosian. I'm literally Lagosian. In fact, well, of course, I was born in Badagry. My grandfather was the first indigenous Secretary of the Badagry local government. So I'm a dyed-in-the-wool Lagosian.
Of course.
Lagos is one of the vibrant places. Yes, and not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. And there have been some homages to Lagos, most recently in the Civil War Marvel Studio movies. Anyway, so I mean, yeah, so I'm proud of that. It's home for me. It engenders a sense of belonging and a desire to portray it in the best light possible. But more than that, I will acquiesce that Lagos can be chaotic. But out of that chaos, it helps me from time to time and inspires fantasy-based stories, So, for example, you look at the waters and you look at the traffic and you're thinking, oh, what if we had this sort of special amphibious vehicle that you can use on water or you can use on land and stuff like that. So Lagos helps me to think of solutions to its chaos. But perhaps most importantly, Lagos is very competitive. In almost every endeavor, whatever you want to do, there are folks who are possibly thinking the same way you are. There are people who are hustling to make dreams come true and all that. So essentially, Lagos drives competition, it drives endeavor, it drives entrepreneurship, and I do not think that I can be much more grateful than I have been. As they say, if you thrive in Nigeria, specifically Lagos, you probably will thrive anywhere
in the
else.
world.
Yes.
Yes.
And what is so gratifying is that, to be fair, especially those of us in the creative circles, the world is somehow converging on what it means to be Nigerian and especially to be Lagosian. Our slangs are out there, our music out there, Legoisms, everywhere, and opportunities are opening up. People are looking at this place. John Boyega was around, I think, last year or 2 years ago. I've heard Lupita Nyong'o has been around. So, very cool things are happening. And if you're a great storyteller, especially with folks like Netflix coming in, then you are possibly at the right place at the right time. And I believe that if you are doing stellar work here, most likely, the whole world is going to get to find out about you very soon.
That's great. That's Lagos for you. Lagos inspires, Lagos motivates, Lagos just make you want to move. Like you said, there's so much inspiration when you're in Lagos.
Absolutely.
Let's take a ride through your career from 2009, from 2001 to 2009. You were a judge at the film festival. You work in front of camera in Tinsel. Tinsel is a series on a TV series. You're co-founder of M2. You co-established DNA, a design agency. You were account manager at Blue Seal, an advertising agency. In 2001, you worked as part of a web design and management team at Prodigy International. And now, having talked about Lagos, how did you build your life? How did Lagos build this sort of life for you? Because I can see a movement, a progressive movement.
Well, I don't know. First of all, you've got to make ends meet. So if there's anything Lagos will inspire, is that Yes, you must do stuff. You
Yeah.
must, because if you don't, I wish I had a trust fund. I don't have. Uh, so, you must work. But beyond that, I lived my formative years in Badagry. I had my secondary school in Badagry, Lagos State Model College. So I had to come out here in quote, to the metropolis for my tertiary education, and that's where I met a lot of people who were very kind enough to encourage me in all my endeavors. I've had some very, very great role models, people who supported me, folks like Mrs. Ajayi Lyset, who, very good to me, very, very good to me, encouraged me. So my former boss at my PR his PR from Mr. Calixtus Okoro, a great guy, so you would always find people out here who are supportive. Even Mr. German Anikulaku. In fact, Mr. German was an editor at the Guardian, and he, to be fair, was the person who was supposed to be on that panel of judges for the Iron Film Festival. But he knew I was, an avid film buff who was into, film, animation, and stuff. So he just, I thought that was so huge. He just said, okay, Sewedo, take my place on that panel, and on that panel there were like, very, very important guys, very accomplished people. That there was always the potential to have been intimidated, but I really didn't care because I thought I really loved film, and that was what was important. And he even allowed me to help pen the forward to the brochure for the film festival itself. So that's part of what I'm saying. In Lagos, I have found people who have helped me, who have helped push my dreams to fruition. Even the tinsel gig was courtesy of one of my friends from Unilag, Lolo Moseibi. He's generally known as Leo Spartani. He's an art director on Tinsel now, even though I was the one who originally piqued his interest in Tinsel because I used to talk about it. I used to talk about the writing. When Tinsel started, I was in the PR firm that worked on the PR for it. We were essentially servicing the multi-choice account. So, I knew a bit about the show, but I grew to love the show, and I used to talk to him about the show. And then by a stroke of fate, he now got to work there. And, he kept telling me, this man used to tell me about Tinsel. Why don't you come around and see what you can do before the cameras, and stuff like that. So that was how the Tinsel thing happened. So throughout my life in Lagos, I've had very, very kind people always aiding me, always abetting me, always encouraging me. And, that's essentially what has helped propel me to, well, wherever it is I am today. And there's still people like your very kind mustachioed self who are also helping to make the dreams come true. And I thank you for that.
FilmLab is making your dream come true. And
Thank you very much,
FilmLab will always make other people's dreams. The young ones that are coming on need to come to FilmLab to experience the facilities we're setting up here to help filmmakers make films.
Absolutely.
To drive this home, all this discussion home, there is one big secret that I need to blow it up. Maybe you need to clean it up, or let me put it that way. What is the feminist impact of your award-winning journalist and wife, Bukola Adebayo, regarding your career path?
My wife is my equal in the relationship. It's not a Sewedo project. It's a Sewedo Bukola project. Okay. And one of the things that has helped us is because we are equals, we see ourselves as intellectual equals, we are almost always, discussing things. So from her, I get information. So she works for an international news organization right now. So if anything is happening, most likely she'll buzz me and keep me abreast of what's happening. Then and so she's very well informed. And to be fair, when I was growing up, one of the things that mattered to me regarding whoever I thought I should get married to is the fact that I really, really wished that they will be well informed. They will be very cerebral type of people. My wife is, and she's definitely not a damsel in distress. She's a go-getting woman. She's the type that will say, have you seen this opportunity? Go for it.
In fact,
Have
she's
you
a
done something?
Moremi.
Oh yes, oh no, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Okay,
yeah.
one last word before we round up this. What would be your best advice for an average filmmaker in terms of taking us back into culture and reorienting us to reap from the beautiful, resourceful things that belong to our culture?
Well, first of all, I say, and I tell these younger ones, because these days, people are enamored about Hollywood, about Japanese animation and stuff. I'm saying there is a huge treasure trove of stuff in our culture. I grew up reading African classics that were just brilliant. African writer series, Ogbojodenu Rumole, very cool stuff with all types of action and drama and pathos and pyrotechnics and all the desgi that you would have. And so, we need to go back to some of these things. Even the pace setters, I read as a secondary school, person, a student. Kalu Okwi had some fantastic thrillers. In fact, Kalu Okwi is the inspiration for my Trinity comic book, which is a political thriller and an alternate history story. So we really, really need to go back and find out and see that we have beautiful material, whether in music, in film, in fashion. Look, nobody is going to sell our stuff except ours.
Yes.
So the reason why we say that people should open their eyes and consume other culture is so that we can have a sense of what is marketable and then take our own thing and refine it and as they say in the lingo, tush it up and sell that, because you're not going to be more American than the Americans. You are not going to be more Japanese or Korean than the Koreans and the Japanese. It's what we have and the way we burnish them and brand it. That is really what is going to help us in the nearest future and make those coming behind us even come into a Nigeria that has its pride of place. So there's really, really, really huge stuff. I read Chino Achepe's books and I see powerful scenarios. I wonder why up till now there's been no follow-up to the Things Fall Apart that NTA did like 5,000 years ago. Why don't we have Arrow of God on our screens? And stuff like that. We've had some incredible, absolutely brilliant writers, and their works are there that can, be optimized. And so, dear filmmaker, you are a priest, you are a prophet, you are a leader, you are an evangelist, exactly, of society. Please take up that challenge with every see it as a sacred duty for you to go out there. But as you are doing that, also keep your eye out for the Benjamins as well, for the Nairas and the Kobos, because we also need art to be, profitable enough to ensure more art, especially since government itself seems too overwhelmed to be able to give as commensurate enough help as possible. So, yes.
Well, my impression in all of this is that you are a well-read person, and I would believe that most of our writers, so-called screenwriters, Nigerian screenwriters, should be so well-read to understand the essential need for us to go back to those roots. Mr. Nupowaku, I want to thank you so much for giving the impression that tomorrow when I come back to talk to you, it will be a different story, a different Moremi, maybe a Wakanda Moremi. I don't know what will
Absolutely.
happen. But I
Absolutely.
do believe that from what you said, if all of us come together as practitioners in this industry, filmmaking industry in Nigeria, Nollywood to be exact, we will be able to
Yes.
churn out so many things now that Nollywood is more or less, unable to manufacture so-called stories anymore. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the program. I hope to have
Thank
you
you very
again.
much.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
God bless you, sir. Thank you. I really had a great time.
Well, that has been Film Talk on Film Lab, and the next edition will come in the next 1 week. If you want to know about Film Talk, go to filmlab.ng. You will find everything you need to know about Film Lab. Till next edition, produce the best films you can for Nigeria. Bye-bye.
They need us. They need us. We are the children. They need us. They need us.